Thank you very much, Kevin. Very pleased to be here. It's Nancy Walt speaking, and I'm going to just do a first few slides, and then Janet will take over the majority of this presentation. Well, this is just a bit of a presentation overview. I'm going to speak just very briefly about some of the shifts going on in assessment, whether it's the foundation skills assessment or graduation assessments, things that we'll see in the classroom assessment world. So all of the kind of shifts going on based on what's happened in curriculum and such. Janet will go over the foundation skills assessment in detail and tell you about what's new, some of the components it's made up of, the new design flow and how it's intended to work, in administration information, marking, a lot of the updated resources that are now online, and we'll absolutely have some time for questions at the end. So that's kind of the general overview, and I'll just do a couple of intro slides around the changes in assessment going on at the ministry and broadly. So some of these shifts in assessment, as I said, whether it's foundation skills assessment or a grad assessment, etc., are these. We're kind of moving away from assessments that have been more content knowledge based, looking at facts, to how do we assess more for understanding and the application of knowledge and getting at that deeper learning. So really mirroring the shifts that have occurred in curriculum. Moving away from that sort of one-size-fits-all to more elements of student choice. So you're going to see some choice built into all of our assessments, whether students can choose a reading passage, etc. Away from our very predominantly multiple choice formats to a lot more engaging and interactive question formats. And Janet will definitely show you some of those, and you can see those in some of the sample assessments that are already online. From a more static traditional testing format to things that are mirroring classroom great practices in the classrooms, self-reflection and collaboration. So we're trying to build those elements into all of our assessments. And really around the reporting end of things, that it was kind of sort of I guess also static numerical kind of non-descriptive reporting. We're trying to make it helpful, and can we provide more descriptive, meaningful information to students, teachers, parents, right after these assessments are done. So we're really exploring that piece of it. So those are some of the shifts that we're seeing in our assessment programs. Next slide, Janet, thank you. And another kind of broad piece that we're looking at around all of our assessment programs is, we're calling this our BC's assessment system. And these are the programs that the ministry has some involvement in, whether it's provincial assessments, national, international, or classroom assessment reporting. We are trying to say, how can we really look at this as a whole system? How do these pieces all sort of fit together? Can we look at it more cohesively? And we're exploring these goals and principles that you see on the left side of that screen. That we're looking at a system that is coherent and balanced and has the emphasis in the right places. So we've seen a decrease in our provincial assessment programs in terms of the volume of assessments, and what that really means is there's more emphasis on the classroom assessment and reporting side of things. So where does the ministry come in and support that, and how can we support these shifts that we're seeing in curriculum? So it's about balance and the emphasis in the right places, but a coherent system that all works together, that's empowering. We're really looking at a strengths-based system, and all of what we do should support student learning and be motivating. And of course, all our programs are principled. And then these are the principles that we're looking at. We assess what's valued. Of course, it aligns with the curriculum. We've said that right from the beginning, that we've known that all our assessment programs need to shift based on the changes and the transformation in curriculum. We value equity and inclusiveness. How can our programs support that? And really looking at timely, meaningful information coming out of all of these programs, even our national, international assessment programs. How can we pull out the interesting information that educators can use, that can inform student learning? And of course, all of them are technically sound. We build on strong principles of reliability and validity and other things. So we're just exploring these goals and principles as a way to bring all our programs together, and you're going to see some more information coming out of the ministry in a paper on assessment that really deals with all of this and talks about all these shifts going on in assessment. So more to come on this from the ministry. So I think this moves over into FSA, and Janet's really going to do the bulk of the rest here. So over to you, Janet.
Great, thank you very much, Nancy, and thanks to everyone for joining us this morning. I know everybody's got quite busy schedules, so we're hoping to pack this webinar full of useful information. And I'm just going to start by sort of reiterating the value and the purpose of the FSA, and the FSA being British Columbia's earliest provincial indicator of student performance, and it provides really strong evidence of future student achievement. The FSA is written in grades 4 and 7, and it's the first of the provincially administered assessments in which students participate. Over the last 2 years, teams of educators from across the province have been working together to develop the new FSA, which is built on the recommendations of the Advisory Group on Provincial Assessment, who we lovingly call AGPA. Following the recommendations of AGPA, a working group of teachers, administrators, and measurement experts provided a general design for the new FSA. AGPA made several recommendations regarding the FSA, and those recommendations included keeping the assessment at grade 4 and grade 7 and focusing on the skills of reading, writing, and numeracy. This really shows the importance of the key foundational skills of reading, writing, and numeracy, and recognizes that grade 4 and grade 7 continue to be important transition years. Along with the key recommendations, there are also suggestions to move the assessment to earlier in the year. Also AGPA recommended the purpose of the FSA, that it provides system-level information on student performance, and it provides districts and schools with information on student performance, and it supports decision-making for various purposes. So there's several things that are still the same, even though there's lots of things that are different about the FSA. The FSA has always been a valid and reliable assessment, and we want to make sure it continues that way. So to hold its value, it continues to be developed by BC educators. So these are educators that are from the classroom and administrators who really know and understand what students can do and where they are developmentally at grade 4 and grade 7. It continues to assess reading, writing, and numeracy. Continues to be administered in grades 4 and 7. It includes online and written components. It's going to take approximately the same length of time to complete as the prior FSA, and it's going to be continued to be scored locally. But what's new? So really new this year, and it's going to be administered in October and November instead of January and February. And so as the assessment is taking place earlier in the year, the FSA is based on the end-of-year profiles for grades 3 and grade 6. Another aspect that's new for the FSA, it's going to include, or it does include, a group collaboration activity. There's a choice of reading themes, uses a variety of engaging question formats. So instead of all multiple choice, there's much more variety in the questions and how students can answer them. Includes an opportunity for students to reflect on their assessment, and it's reported out on a proficiency scale. I see a question coming in about the name of the advisory group. So there was the Advisory Group on Provincial Assessment, AGPA, and there was also the FSA Redesign Working Group. So I'm going to go through a few of the components of the FSA. The new FSA has 4 components, and with this new design, students are given engaging ways to interact with the assessment and to reflect on their thinking and communicate their understanding. This new structure evolves from discussions with and advice from the Redesign Working Group on having the assessments better mirror classroom practices. The 4 components for the FSA are the collaboration, the student booklet, the online, and the self-reflection. The new components of collaboration and self-reflection provide opportunities for students to engage in the assessment in a more meaningful way And there's people asking, so I want to make sure that this is clear, that those two components of collaboration and reflection, those are not scored at all. Those are just to support students to feel successful in their assessment and to reflect on what they've done. So this slide depicts the FSA specifications in a graphical way. So this is what the FSA looks like. It begins with a collaboration activity that's classroom-based and introduces and explores the themes. Moves on to the student booklet portion. In the student booklet, there's a choice of 2 reading themes, and within the reading portion, it includes open-ended questions that are structured to scaffold the connections between the big ideas within the 2 texts. There's a writing portion where students create and communicate their thoughts and ideas from a writing prompt. A numeracy portion, which includes open-ended questions that require students to use their numeracy skills, and an opportunity to reflect. So a self-reflection where students reflect on their assessment experiences that focuses on the core competencies of thinking and communication. Then the online portion of the FSA includes a reading portion where students read and respond to a variety of text online, and it includes multiple question formats, and these questions reflect a range of difficulty and complexity. And then the numeracy portion where students respond to items related to the math curricular competencies and content, and again, multiple question formats that reflect a variety of ranges of difficulty and complexity. And finally, a second opportunity for students to reflect, and it gives them an opportunity to explore their learning and attitudes, and it provides feedback from the student perspective. So we're going to unpack each of those components. So we'll start with the collaboration activity. This is the first component, and it's about a 10-minute group activity that takes place immediately prior to the reading portion of the student booklet. So this can be done in a multi-grade classroom or in a distance learning situation. It's led by the teacher, and the activity aims to activate students' knowledge, provide an opportunity to collaborate with their peers, build connections to the themes, and sets the stage for students to be successful in the FSA. In the activity, students will explore the 2 themes, and that will support them to make their choice onto which of the themes they want to follow through to the reading portion of the assessment. This choice of themes supports personalized learning and serves to engage the students and follow their interests. This collaboration activity has been provided in a printout in all the packages that have been sent to the schools. As well, it's available to be downloaded in a PDF form from the AWIS website once the FSA is live next week. The second component is a student booklet component. And this is connected to the collaboration activity, and it provides students first with their choice of reading themes that interest them. So you can see on this second page that I've put here, that's where the students would indicate which of the 2 themes that they will explore during the reading portion. So in the student booklet, the students will read 2 texts and provide short written responses to 3 questions to show their understanding of the texts. The writing portion of the FSA in the student booklet includes 1 writing task for students to respond to. Students create and communicate their thoughts and ideas from a writing prompt that includes a purpose and an audience. The numeracy portion of the student booklet includes 3 questions related to real-life contexts and tasks, and assesses numeracy through problem-solving tasks. The third component of the FSA is the online assessment, and it's been significantly updated, and the development teams have really focused on the content and the questions to ensure that they're relevant to contexts across the province and that they're engaging and interesting to students. So this is an example of the design of the new text in the FSA. And all the examples here are available currently online in the FSA samples portion. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to give you some examples of what some of the questions look like within the new FSA, within the online component of the FSA. So these are from our online samples, and that these samples educators and students to go through to get more comfortable with the assessment. So this is an example of a sequencing question in reading. Students can use their mouse to sequence the events in the correct order. This next question is an example of where students can drag the arrow to indicate their correct response. In this numeracy question, students will move Julia on the number line to show how far she has walked. This numeracy question asks students to complete a pattern by moving the correct response into the table. This question is an example of a drop-down response that students can choose from one of 4 responses in a drop-down menu. And this numeracy question shows how a numerical input response question works. Students will click on the answer spot and a keypad pops up for them to use. From here, they can input their response. Over the last 2 years, a team of educators from across BC and the Yukon have worked on developing the texts and the questions, both for the live FSA and also for the online samples. So they have done a lot of work in 2 years' time. These educators come from a variety of backgrounds, and they include administrators, subject matter experts, First Nations educators, and measurement experts. All the items that you'll see both in the live FSA and on the online samples have been field tested, they've been reviewed and critiqued by curriculum and measurement experts, and they've been refined further before they finally made it to our live FSA or to our online samples. So there is quite a process to ensure that these questions are the best that they can be. The 4th component of the new FSA concludes with students reflecting on and analyzing their own experiences in the process and the assessment task. This component provides feedback from a student perspective, and it relates to the thinking and communication core competencies. The reflection offers an insightful lens into the student's thinking and communicating. So there's 2 opportunities for students to reflect. Their first opportunity is within the student booklet, and the student booklet reflection can be shared back with teachers and with parents. So this is an open-ended question for students. The second opportunity for students to reflect is at the end of the online component, where students will sort what they found most interesting within the FSA, and also be able to provide some insight into what they enjoyed on the FSA in an open-ended question. So this reflection from students will be available to schools and to the ministry within the school data report, and we'll talk to that a little bit later. So schools will be able to see how students responded to this self-reflection question. The FSA is going to take approximately 4.5 hours to complete, which is around the same amount of time that it's taken in the past, and it can be done over the course of the 6-week administration period. And that administration period is October 2nd to November the 10th. Local marking has been a very successful activity in the past, and we've heard really good feedback and strong feedback that it provides districts with professional development and a great window into the variety of student responses that there are. So FSA marking will remain at the local school level. School districts and FSA will receive funding to support the marking activities. And as there's no more marking for provincial exams at the district level or the local level, all the funds that districts and FSA will receive for marking will go towards supporting the FSA marking activities. In August of this year, we held an FSA marking refresher. We invited representatives from all districts and representatives from FISA to attend, and by all accounts and through our feedback, it was a very successful session. It provided an overview of the new FSA, similar to what you're seeing now, and a refresher on the marking. We've reviewed the updated scoring rubrics and remarked and discussed some of the student scores to help with their understanding of marking. The ministry will continue to support, continue to provide marking support such as the scoring guides, sample responses, and student exemplars. And as part of the scoring activities, the ministry is monitoring district-based and school-based scoring by collecting a sample of student booklets across the province and rescoring these student responses in a provincial monitoring session. So this is something that we've done in the past, and we're starting it back again. This is going to provide us with really important information on how the marking is going. It will provide us with an indicator of whether more supports or more training is needed for marking. Resource packages that are being sent to districts next week will include further information on this activity, and it will provide information on the number of booklets to be photocopied and sent to the ministry, as well as a waybill, so that that can be sent to the ministry. And in July of this year, the students' responses will be rescored by a team of educators, so we can look into the scoring alignment information for each district, and we'll be able to provide districts and the province with the monitoring report. So further information on how to participate in the monitoring marking session will be available in early 2018. One of the purposes to have the FSA in the fall is to provide schools with student information early in the school year. Raw result reports will be available immediately after score entry is complete. So these reports will include the unprocessed scores from the student booklets and the online components. Student level information will be available in two formats. So the first format is a student level profile. That includes raw scores on each of the components: reading, writing, numeracy, online, and the written, as well as raw scores on the cognitive levels. The second report is a school level raw report, and it's a spreadsheet that provides all the raw scores for the students in the school. These reports won't categorize the students yet, as we still need to do a standard setting session after all the FSA data has been compiled. You'll get a further report later in 2018. These are new formats for the raw results report, so we really would appreciate any kind of feedback that you want to provide to the ministry on its usefulness, its format, if there's more information needed or if there's too much information. So we are definitely hoping to hear back from you on what teachers, students, and parents found useful about these reports. So after all the FSA data is compiled and cleaned up and analyzed, we will undergo a process called standard setting. In this process, we make an expert judgment about student performance, and this involves educators, again, from across the province, and these educators will help determine what performance will look like at each of the proficiency level categories. And after this, additional reports will be available to schools and districts that will categorize students into the 3 proficiency levels. So after standard setting, we'll be better able to describe student performance on the FSA. A proficiency scale will be used that is descriptive, strength-based, and describes what students can do. Proficiency levels in large-scale assessment classify student performance according to broad descriptive categories, and they're used to explain what a score actually means, and it brings a descriptive picture to a score. We'll be using the levels emerging, on track, and extending to describe student performance. Currently, we have a draft description of what these levels look like, and after standard setting, the levels will be further described and defined. So in order to support the successful administration of the FSA, we have compiled a variety of online and printed resources for schools and administrators. So online, there's an overview of the new FSA, the educator update, description and specifications, link to samples, question and answers, parent brochures, administration manuals, scoring guides, the AGPA report, and more. Many of these supports have also been mailed out to districts, printed and mailed out, including the administration manual and the scoring guide. And in the front cover of the scoring guide, there's a list of important information, dates, and contact information for districts if they require support. So to reiterate, the administration dates are October 2nd to November 10th. The score entry deadline is November 24th. If you need any technical support during the FSA, AWIS is your best bet to help you. They are fabulous and have troubleshooted and helped out districts for many years, and they really know what they're doing. So if in doubt and you're having any difficulties, please connect with AWIS. They are the ones that really are going to be able to support you on this. If you have questions or concerns about accommodations, CL Mar is our go-to person. And there's an email address and telephone number if you have questions about personal education numbers. So I'm now open to any questions that you may have. Kevin, if there's any questions that have come through.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jan and Nancy. We have time for a few questions. I have saved the question log, so we won't get to all of them, but I will forward those questions to you, and if you don't mind responding to them, we'll send them back out to our participants. And so first off, a question, I'm going to back up a little bit. The package, FSA package that comes to schools is very comprehensive. I've administered the FSA in my elementary schools for a number of years, and there's there's a frequently asked question portion that answers a lot of questions. But one question in particular, can you talk a little bit about the process for exempting a student from the FSA?
So I don't want to get into it too much here because it's really well described within the administration manual. So there's it's up to principals to decide who can be exempted, and the criteria is listed within there. And we've worked really hard over the last year with our inclusive education partners within the ministry to ensure that this is really clear, and that also that we've tried to make as many accommodations available as possible so that all students, or as many as possible, can write the FSA with accommodations that are already in their IEP or accommodations that they may receive already in their classes. So if you have specific questions that can't be answered through what's available in the administration guide, I'd be happy to answer them, but I feel like it's a really clear explanation of that exemption process. And to go into any further details may take up a lot of time here.
Understood, thank you. So I'm combining a couple of questions. The first part of is the online component iPad friendly? And the second piece is how distance learning students can access the FSA, particularly the collaborative portion if they're doing most of it or all of it from home.
So first of all, yes, the online component is compatible with iPads. And secondly, for a distance student, it still can be accessed via their distance learning situation. And the collaboration activity, it's designed so that it can be completed by a pair of students or even a teacher and a student together or in a multi-age situation. So there is ways that distance learning students could do that, or they could participate via a Skype session with a bricks and mortar school. So there's a variety of ways that it could be completed for a student that's in a distance situation.
Good, and you outlined sort of the different components of the FSA. Does the test have to be administered in that order, or do the teachers have the freedom to mix up the order of the assessments?
So absolutely, teachers can administer the FSA in an order that makes sense to them. The only thing that needs to be done together is the collaboration activity should be done immediately prior to the reading portion of the student booklet, because that activity will set the students up to choose which of the reading themes they will pursue, but otherwise they can do anything in any order that they wish, whatever works for schools.
All right, so we have one final question, something I've run into in administering the FSA as well too, is how firm are the time limits for those different components of the FSA, given that there will be students who need additional time?
If students need additional time, that would be up to a teacher's discretion. Obviously, they're the ones that know best the students and whether that is a reasonable request or not, and whether they can accommodate that. But there's absolutely flexibility within those time limits, and for teachers to use their professional judgment and discretion for that.
Good. Okay, and with that, thank you very much to the both of you, Janet and Nancy. Really appreciate what you provided today. It's provided for myself a lot more clarity about what FSA is going to look like this year. And for all of our participants, thank you so much for being a part of this. As I said, I'm going to forward all of those questions to Nancy and Janet. We'll get their responses out to the field. Also, the PowerPoint presentation will be available in a few days. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are recording this and we'll put this on our YouTube channel within the next few days. And so once again, thank you to both of you for presenting this very informative session. Thank you for our participants for being involved today. And with that, I'm going to bring our session to a close and wish everyone a good day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.